Hello, everybody! I'm playing with new toys here with my streaming setup, so I'm super curious to hear how that worked out for you guys. I was kind of hoping setting it up this way gives us a little bit of a chance for YouTube to send out the notification that I am live. But hello, everybody! I see we got lots of people in the room already, so I'm gonna say hi to some peoples. I'm doing some things. Okay, we've got Novira, Bethany, Tarot Lady, Butterfly Love Child, Hysteric Blue, Giselle, Red PR, Paperback Palacios, Hi Painted Owl, Hi Jamie, Tar Apple, Marion's here. Isn't it really late where you are, Marion? I saw you were going to stay up, Fred. I'm super touched. Sandra, Giselle. Did I say Giselle? Touched or what? What? What'd you say?
You touched her. You touched it.
Did I say it funny?
No. I'm touched.
Versus
You're touched.
Oh, does touched, is that like a crazy
like
thing?
A slang way of saying touched,
Peggy's
but
being
it means you're crazy.
Brat.
I'm sorry, I'm being mean to my wife again.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Hexen. Hi, Heidi, Stacy, Cleo. I'm probably going to miss somebody in this list. Gwen, Deb.
I typed
Whale Song, Kristen. Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it up. But it's so good to have everybody here. I'm really excited to be starting this new series on the channel, and thank you to you guys because this all sort of spiraled because we had that really great conversation about spirit guides, which, if I remember, I will link it in the description box down below after this video, or maybe it might actually already be in there. I might have had some foresight. I can't remember. And that way you guys can check out kind of where this all began. Hello, Liz. Hi, long hair, skinny eye toe. That's really rolling off the tongue these days. It's kind of funny. But I am so excited to dive in because this is such a humongous topic, and I'm going to try to build this series fairly sequentially so we can sort of build the conversation as we go. But I'm really stoked to have you guys here and just to kind of jump in. So we're going to get started in just a minute. But first, how is everybody? I hope you have something to eat or to drink. I'm doing both because I have some miso in my mug. So I may stir occasionally because miso does the thing. But it's pretty tasty. Hi, Darcy. Oh my gosh, we've got almost 40 people. I wasn't sure about this time, but this is a perfect time for me right after work. So I'm home and I'm settled in. So I've had a chance to get set up and it worked out really good for me. I make no promises about lighting because I'm working with window lighting, so it may shift as we go on. And there may also be doggo noises, as you just caught. So we're going to be talking about eclectic witchcraft, and I'm going to kind of define that a little bit as I'm going to define it for this series. It's pretty much all topics are on the table as they relate. I'm just waiting to see if the doggos are coming.
Bruno. Hi.
Bruno, come here.
Hi,
buddy.
Come here.
He's like, hi. So as I'm going to be defining it, almost pretty much everything's going to be on the table, but we're going to talk a little bit about it. Technically, witchcraft or the craft is the things that we do as part of the practice, right? So however that practice looks for you, the craft is the practice. And sort of a layer additional to that would be the spiritual side of, there's lots of spirituality woven into the craft, but religion is going to be separate. Deb says, hi, Bruno. Do you want to say hi to Auntie Deb? Yeah. He's just sitting down there wagging his tail at me. So we're going to be like really all over the place with topics, but I want to kind of build it sequentially based on different experiences I've had having tried a whole bunch of different things and sort of where I am now, and we'll open it up for discussion so that we can talk about the different aspects of practice that we're passionate about. But I wanted to really kind of begin at the beginning, particularly if people are joining us or watch this back later who are brand new to anything witchy, just to really start with a foundation. So I really wanted to kind of use that as a jumping off point. So the main focus of today's talk is going to basically be about determining your why. A lot of us come to the craft for a reason. There's something we are looking for. Sometimes we're looking for an ability to manifest to sort of take charge of our reality, to manifest our future, to feel more empowered in our spiritual practices. But I think it's really important if you're setting out on this journey to know what your why is going to be and to spend some time maybe thinking about it. So over the next week or so before we have another one of these chats, and I haven't just decided on a schedule, it may be Wednesdays, it may just be whenever, but before we have another chat, there's some time for us to sort of percolate with what our why is. Hi, Caroline. Hi, Katie. So that's really where we're starting, is the why. So everybody's why is going to be different. It's like anything else around spirituality or practice or even hobbies and interests. There's always a reason why for us that we want to dive into it. So the why is going to be ultimately what today's chat is all about. It's what we're looking for. It's what are you hoping to get out of your practice? What are you hoping to get out of a witchy exploration or out of designing a spiritual practice that's going to really suit you? What is it you're looking for? And so I'm going to invite you guys over the next little bit of time to spend some time with the question and think about what is your why. Think about what you're looking for. Think about what you're hoping to get out of it. So that's where I'm coming from with today's chat. But this is also going to be a bit of a open discussion about like what you're most curious to dive into throughout this series. I've got a whole bunch of ideas on the table. And again, I want to build it in a way that it's going to make sense from chat to chat, where we can sort of layer a skill on top of another skill or an experiment on top of another experiment, that kind of thing. So I really want to come at this with a very like, the world is our oyster sort of mentality, where we can just dive into whatever it is that we want to dive into. So I wanted to define quickly eclectic for me, or eclectic witchcraft for me, is it means that anything is on the table. If I decide I want to weave in yoga and I want to weave in, oh, Peggy's here. Hi, Peggy.
I am here. I'm just kind of going back. I was looking at something and I'm going back and forth.
But the idea for me,
I'm trying to behave for a change.
Aw, she's behaving. That's weird. But for me, it's about eclectic means that anything that nourishes me, anything that sort of fills my cup, can be a part of my practice. Anything that adds to the way that I want to feel, anything that supports my why is valid. Hi, Donna. Donna's here.
Oh, hey, Donna.
Guys, we have very boofy dogs. They're very boofy.
They hear the neighbor's dog going down the hall.
Yeah. Shayla. So that's the other thing I wanted to was also mention the idea of customizing or experimenting. So the idea of building, the whole point of this series is going to be to kind of share our experiences with each other in building a spiritual practice that sort of suits us. So a lot of it is going to be about building layer upon layer. So experimenting and customizing. I have a few notes. So I'm really curious to hear from you guys. There's like 40-something people in the room. So let me know what it is you're looking for when you think eclectic witchcraft, or when you think eclectic spirituality, or eclectic paganism, or whatever label you want to slap on it. What is it that you think of? What do you think that means for you? And let's open it up a little bit for some discussion. Yeah, your craft is your practice, Terry says. Yeah, exactly. I think it's interesting because I think for me, when I came to paganism, when I came to earth-based spirituality in general, I was definitely looking for something that would give me a sense of agency and a sense of purpose. But also, I wanted, in the beginning at least, I wanted to feel some structure, but I also wanted to feel like it was going to connect with me personally, that it was going to make sense to me personally. And that's coming from a background where small things didn't make sense in other spiritual paths that I'd explored. So, for example, going to church never made sense. I had reverence for deity or for a higher power, and it didn't make sense to me to be in a building looking down at the floor. I wanted to be out in a field looking at the sky, and I've talked about that before. Yeah, Heidi, I take what resonates and leave the rest. Long hair, skinny eyed toe says, when I think of eclectic, I think of dabbling. Yeah, in a bit of everything. What's interesting to me about is what eclectic looks and feels like is different over time. Like for me, initially, it's very much about dabbling and experimenting. And then over time, I start to like, it's kind of like if you were collecting recipes in a recipe book. You like pull, oh, I like this cookie recipe from grandma, but I like this casserole recipe I got from the church. Or, and I love this like cake recipe I saw on the Food Network. And eventually you have your own collection of recipes. And to me, hi, Christy. To me, it's like eventually when you're building your own craft, when you're building your own eclectic path, over time, you're building your own recipe box of the practices, the skills, the techniques, the explorations, the types of practice that really resonate with you and that fill you up or that are effective for you. Whale Song says, being open-minded with whatever feels right to me at that time and exploring, listening, and changing as life flows. Yeah. Like, I mean, you might have a whole box of recipes. I love this analogy. I'm just going to go with it. You might have a whole box of recipes, but then 10 years later, you're like, actually, I haven't reached for this one in a long time. It's not really one that I crave anymore, so I'm going to take it out of the box. And then maybe you'll add a different one in. And to me, that's what my practice looks like now. It's like over time, I've built up like some core things that I go back to again and again, but other things change out. I add in prayer beads. I may add in prayer or chanting, and then I may take out formal circle casting, which I do very rarely these days, but I still do. Like, so I think for me, a lot of it is about slowly collecting, and the way you collect is by exposing yourself to a lot of different information, a lot of different people's perspectives, different practices, different environments. When I was a little baby witch, all there was Wicca, and there was very specific Wicca in the area that I was in initially. So you had like the Gardnerian Wicca, and then you had, I think there was one or two other types. And I found it kind of enchanting and fascinating, but at the same time almost overly restrictive. I didn't want to move from one dogmatic tradition to another, even if it was a beautiful dogma. I was trying to stay away from that and sort of build my own path. I've gotten a lot more confident in later years with letting it be my practice. And so I finally feel like I'm in a place where being eclectic and shifting and moving with the practice, as somebody else said up here that I just read it a second ago. Was it long hair, skinny eye toe? Yeah, the dabbling, but there was something else. Novira says, I think it means whatever jives with you, whatever makes you comfortable and feels right. But this idea of moving with the practice, to me, is one of the most incredible things about it. It's that it's something that can grow with you and that you can shift and move with. I feel like I'm repeating myself. Bethany says, to me, it means being open to wherever spirit takes you, even if it's unconventional or has nothing to do with what you were taught. Yes. Lennon, what calls you in mind, body, spirit, and going forth with those calls can be an eclectic practice. Yeah, I think that listening in general in a spiritual way is a huge part of crafting your own practice, or practicing your craft. Luna says, I think it is being open to many different deities and pantheons and beliefs, not sticking to one only. There's no right or wrong way, only what feels right for you. Absolutely. Katie says, being your own guru. Yes. Cleo says, I think of being able to customize my spiritual practices rather than have to accept everything from a spiritual tradition. Yeah, that's important to me too. This is the stuff you guys are saying right now is sort of you verbalizing in a way what your why is. Why is eclectic spirituality or eclectic paganism or eclectic witchcraft enticing to you or appealing to you? And all of those are super valid reasons why this could be a really great exploration. Deb, eclectic gives you the option to choose your path instead of having it predefined. Absolutely. And taking the bits and pieces that make the whole that feels like your journey. Marion, for me, my practice gives me comfort and security. I'm very much a solitary witch, very instinctive, and I found that most of what I do, I know I've done it before, if that makes any sense. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we're tapping into ancestral knowledge. We're tapping into sort of collective consciousness. Donna, I do such with following recipes and coloring within the lines. So crafting what feels right is the only way I can be successful. Yeah, I mean, if you're following a path and you don't understand why you're following it, then you're not going to get the good stuff out of it. If somebody along the way told you what the elemental color associations are and they make no sense to you, then why would you work with them? For years, in fact, the traditional Wiccan correspondences of, at least when I was exposed to it, were red for fire, blue for water, yellow for air, and green for earth. And all of those made sense to me except air. I was like, air is not yellow. Air is clear. So I used white for air, and I did that for years. Now I use yellow for air. I don't know why. I don't know why I made the transition. Just at some point it made sense. Oh, hi, Sammy. So for me, I slowly started to play and associate what made sense for me. And I started to let go of the things that didn't, even if the book said I should or whatnot. And I began to kind of carve my own path. And in the beginning, I had a lot of doubt around that and a lot of insecurity around that. And then now, looking back, my practice is so much more empowered and powerful and effective now. So I think that's a really huge part of it. Katie says, it feels safer to me to follow my intuition and what feels right versus what is dictated stated by a leader type, as that can lead to abuse of power. Oh, I have stuff to say on this. I've actually had really difficult experiences with spiritual leaders in the past and with leaders in my life in general. I have a lot of like sort of low-key trauma and also big-key trauma in my childhood and that sort of thing around people in positions of power and authority figures. And so for me, learning to be discerning and take what feels right and safe for me and work with that has been a huge piece of really finding my footing spiritually. Lennon says, if you feel uncomfortable about something, you don't have to include it. Read the book and only highlight what resonates. Yes, absolutely. And I think it's really important to spend time with your why. If you want to start right now, like building a practice from the ground up, which is what I hope we'll be able to do throughout this series, is sort of experiment with a lot of things, have a lot of discussions, and really pick what works for us. Hashtag trauma, right, Sammy? And Katie, excellent point. You can be spiritual without being real. The reason I called this, I really struggled with the name for a little bit because I was going to call it Eclectic Witchcraft and Spirituality, or I wasn't sure what name to call it. And I stuck with Eclectic Witchcraft because you can layer spirituality and faith-based practices and religious-based practices on top of a solid, tangible practice. But to me, the things that ultimately drive me forward on my spiritual path are the things I do actively in my practice, whatever those might be, whether it's spell work or journal work or divination work or whatever that is. If I'm actively doing, then I'm being in my practice and I'm benefiting from it, versus only basing that on a set of specific core beliefs. But we're going to talk about core beliefs too in a second. Terry, I feel it's environment, ancestors, and spirit. Yeah, all of those things are important. Bethany says, how do you reconcile religious rules with things that don't drive with you or don't jive with you? That's where we're starting, essentially. So, oh my gosh, Terry, it's because I have it made big on my computer so I can see it. Okay, so I want to bring up the idea of core values because this is where everything sort of begins. Oh my God, you're cracking me up. This is where it sort of begins, because the whole point of a spiritual practice of any kind, whether it's a faith-based practice or a really just tangible, like folk magic kind of practice, whatever it is, it all starts with your core values. What is important to you? What do you want to get out of it? And so this is where things like your ethics come into play. Hi, Carmen. This is also where you actually question and develop your ethics. This is where you decide, what are the sort of rules I want to follow? Where are my boundaries at with exploring? Where am I going to create the framework? And that, I think, is so important because that's where everything else blooms from. And if you have a safe space to practice in, a container, if you will, then suddenly you can explore with a lot less fear because you know you've got sort of a guiding light or guiding structure. And I think for people who have, say, a Christian background or a traditional church background, you always start with a set of rules, right? You start with a little bit of a boundary, with a container for what you're going to be practicing. Kristen says, I have a hard time fitting into pre-established traditions because my spirituality isn't deity-centric. And this is the main reason why I want to do this from a craft practice perspective. We will be talking about relationship with deity and spirituality and faith-based practices too. But a lot of people don't work that way. A lot of people are going to be about the day-to-day sort of tangible stuff. And I think that's really, really important. So let's talk about ethics and core values for a second. So when I think of core values, I think about the things that are super important to me. The things that if I'm in alignment with these things, I feel like I'm in alignment with my truest self, with my highest self. I feel like I'm living my best life. I feel like I'm living up to my own standards, if that makes any sense. So I've spoken before on this channel about how vulnerability is a core value. And what I mean by that is I feel like it is good work to do in the world to show the parts of you that are less perfect, the parts of you that are flawed, the parts of you that need work, the parts of you that are a little more tender. And I think that's important work for me to do because I feel like we don't see enough of that out in the day-to-day world. We see a lot of people trying to hold themselves to a standard. We see a lot of people trying to maintain an image. And I feel like it's empowering to see people be honest about where things aren't okay and where they do struggle and where it's hard. So that for me is a core value, vulnerability. Authenticity is a core value for much the same reason. So I want a practice that's going to make me feel safe exploring authenticity and vulnerability. I want that to be woven into my practice and into my path. Those are core values. Yeah, Brene Brown is such an inspiration to me. I want my practice to be self-loving. So I want a practice that's going to make me feel good about myself. I don't want a practice based on punishment or on self-reproach or self-recrimination. I want a practice that's going to feel very nourishing and compassionate. Oh, I saw that video pop up in my feed, Lennon, and I've got it on my watch later list, but I haven't watched it yet. Yeah, Sammy, exactly. Knowing how to be vulnerable and still have boundaries. This is where my favorite term, fierce vulnerability, came from. This idea that you can be vulnerable and still really look out for yourself and still really have those strong boundaries. I think that's super important. I also wrote down empowering. Empowering is a key value or core value for me in my spiritual practice. I want it to make me feel empowered and powerful. I want my spiritual practice to help me step into my agency, to step into my power, to make me feel like I have the ability to craft my future and step into my sort of create my own destiny. So empowerment is a huge piece of my spiritual practice. What else did I write down? Because I wrote down a few just like free form earlier. I wanted to feel raw. My practice used to feel very sort of delicate and it's sort of, oh my God, I love that. Oh my, I got an error because somebody else had already done it. The dog can still shit in your yard with a sign. Put up a fence. Yes, it's more than just saying your boundaries. It's about physically holding those boundaries or spiritually holding those boundaries or energetically holding those boundaries. Completely, that is an amazing analogy. I love that. And for me, devotion and faith are a part of my practice. They're a core value. There's something I want out of it. And for me, I think part of the reason that working with deity and devotion are important aspects is because I do look to my spiritual path for a sense of mothering. I didn't have the kind of mothering that was nourishing growing up. And so in my spiritual path, I really look to that parental energy. And it's not even just mothering. My primary spirit guide has a very fatherly kind of energy. And so I do look to my spirituality to, in a way, fill that gap for me and to create that sense of being protected and safe and held and loved. And for me, that's something I look for in my spiritual path. If I feel like my path is, and this is ultimately why I broke up with Christianity, because my relationship with Christianity, it kind of felt like I had the type of parent I kind of already had. I had a parent that was being overly critical and overly judgy of me, and that wasn't good. That wasn't a good space for me to be. And that was part of what ultimately caused that severing for me personally. So I need that to be a part of my path. I need that loving, nurturing energy to be a component of it. And I look to my work with my spirit guides and I look to my work with deity to provide that. So that's a huge part of something that I want to have in my spiritual practice. So I think it's really important to look at that piece, to look at what is it you're looking for? What is the need or the want that your spiritual practice or your witchcraft practice is going to fulfill for you? What is it going to, if you could make like, I mean, it's kind of in a way, this is going to be kind of a strange analogy, mostly because I think this is a bad idea when you're dating, but like, let's say you were doing this, even though I think it's a bad idea, and you have like a bit of a mental checklist of like what you want your potential partner to have. I want them to have this kind of a job. I want them to have like this, I want them to be good with kids. I want them to, have brown hair, dark eyes, be tall, whatever. Again, I think that's a terrible idea if you're dating. I think you should have some core things. But in general, it's kind of like, because you have the ability to create your own practice, to build your own spiritual path, since you have that ability, why wouldn't you build it to meet or to check off all your boxes, right? Yeah, Donna. And Lennon says holding space for yourself is important too. And I think that's the thing for me with witchcraft that I love so much, is it is a form of self-care for me. It is a form of, it's a form of putting yourself first, of doing things in your own best interest. Didn't we all have that list like practical magic? I should be clear, because it's not that I think that it's bad to have things you want in a partner. I don't think that's bad. I think you can end up creating a barrier to connecting with people if you're too overly specific, or if you think you know what's right for you and you're not open to the connections that bubble up. So that was maybe like a weird thing to say, but oh, my husband can't ride a horse backwards, unfortunately, but can he flip a pancake in the air? It's a practical magic reference, babe. Peggy's just looking at me. Just look at me. So that's what I mean about, like, I think it's important if you're going to build a practice to have in mind what you really want to get out of it, right? Whale Song says, a spiritual path helps me to be who I want to be or become, to be my best me. Yes. That's a huge part of it. So a lot of my practice is around personal growth. And the other thing I wrote down was, for me, the primary why, the why for my spirituality, the why for my witchcraft, the why for my practices is ultimately because I genuinely believe that my job in every lifetime is to learn and to do better. And so if I believe that, and if I want to essentially graduate my soul to the next level, or my spirit to the next level, and essentially reach the next grade, because this is how I view multiple lives in the afterlife, if that's my goal, then I want a practice that's going to support me doing that personal growth work throughout my lifetime. Yeah, Red, that might be exactly what I mean. Yeah, the list can limit the universe from giving you something better. Yeah, like if you're set that you want somebody who, say, is like a career-driven individual, and you meet some random, like, wild, crazy entrepreneur who started 17 businesses and they're the right person for you, that's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. I would like healing, beauty, strength, meaning, and to be the best version of me. I love that, love that, love that. Yeah, Christy says, I've always felt accepted by nature, never by man. And that's a really, really interesting point. A lot of us are looking for acceptance is a wonderful core value for a spiritual practice, is seeking that sort of acceptance. To have a practice that supports you meeting yourself where you are, I think is really powerful and beautiful. Bethany says, I want empowerment. Yes. Experience of Christianity was so self-deprecating and forcing you to lower yourself, and the worse you felt, the better you were doing. I want something that makes me feel valid. Yes. And validity and feeling supported and seen is so important. So my primary why is I want to level up. I want to, throughout this lifetime, learn and grow to the point where when I'm all done and at the end, and I'm like sort of accounting for how I did this lifetime, I want to know that I've essentially done what I needed to do, that I've graduated, that I've held myself to that standard of growing and doing better, of learning about myself. And you don't have to have like an 8-mile list of what you're looking for. Giselle just said, I'm just looking for more self-empowerment. That's perfect. That's all you need. So I just think that if you want to build a practice, I think it's super, super helpful to start with a why, and to write that why down somewhere so that you have a reminder of, why am I doing this? Because then later, if you're looking back on something you've added to your practice and you're like checking in with yourself and it doesn't line up with your why, then you know it's okay to let it go. And if it does, or you find something new that aligns with your why, it's a good reminder that you can bring that into your practices, right? So that's what I wrote down about that. A lot of building an eclectic to me is about mixing and blending and sort of creating your own creation. I love the recipe card analogy. I'm probably not going to be able to let it go now, but but I think, some people are going to fill a recipe book up with desserts because that's what really nourishes them and fills their cup. And other people are going to fill a recipe book with a ton of really like hearty meat and potato kind of dishes. And some people are going to have lots of like really fancy, like ethnic cuisine from the world. And spirituality is exactly like that. When you're designing your own spiritual path, when you're really creating an eclectic practice that works for you, you get to sort of figure out or pick what's going to work for you. Giselle says, do you think whys will change while we grow? Yeah, it does. My why changes. I guess my core why doesn't change. I'm still looking to just level up and be a better me. But the things that I feel like I need out of my practice have shifted so much over the years. In the beginning, I really wanted to learn from somebody or from somebodies who had experience in the craft or in Wicca. I wanted to learn from other people in the community. I wanted to just kind of do things right. And over time, I've learned that for me, I ended up having to let a lot of that go and instead go with what feels like home is the best way I know how to describe it. But I do think that if your practice never changes in your whole life, your spiritual practice, then probably there's a point at which it's not serving you, because we change throughout our lives. Like, we're constantly evolving. Look at what we're facing right now as a global community. None of us could have ever foreseen this, could have ever imagined that this is the lifestyle we were going to be living in this moment. And yet here we are. And how is our spiritual practice currently supporting us in this? Yeah, Kristen says my whys have definitely changed and I need to start from scratch as to what that is. Exactly. Stacy, my recipe box was full of wards, boundaries, and shields, and it took me 15 years to realize it was a very witchy box. Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing. Sometimes we've built up a series of practices and a series of techniques and prayers or chants or spells or whatever that have nourished us. And then we look down and we're like, oh, look what we've collected. We had no idea. Wellness Witch. I love the recipe card analogy so much. It makes so much sense to me, and it's so comforting in its description. I came up with that on the fly. I'm so proud of myself. But I think in analogies. Like if you ever get a tarot reading from me, the weirdest analogies come up when I'm reading. It's like this. It's the way my intuition works. I just think of like analogies. It's so funny. Yeah. What feels at home? Yes. Nature, witchcraft, home. So the other piece, in addition to sort of your personal core values and your why, is also your ethics. And ethics is a slippery subject because it can be really ethereal and hard to grab onto. Like, what are your ethics? Like, you might think you know, and then over time you realize you don't know. And this is one of those areas that can really, really positively influence your practice when it comes to divination. If you're into tarot, I'm assuming you're at least marginally interested if you found my channel, since tarot is in the name. But in general, like if you know where you stand in as far as your ethics are concerned, it makes it feel a lot more comfortable to explore and expand what you do in different areas, to dabble, as it were, because you know where your boundaries are, you know where your personal ethics are, and you know what you will and won't be comfortable trying. And I think that's really important to get clear on in the beginning, because what you don't want to do is practice and play around and 6 months later look back and feel horrible because you realize that some of the things you did were not in line with your boundaries or not in line with your ethics. And so I really encourage you to spend some time thinking about what your personal ethics are. So a really popular ethical concept in Wicca is the Wiccan Rede, which not everybody subscribes to, but the essential meaning is, and it harm none, do what you will. So it's the idea that without harm, you're fairly free to explore. But when you start to unpack this idea of, and it harm none, do what you will, it can get pretty sticky because there's actually a lot of gray area in a lot of magical practices, in a lot of spiritual practices. There's a lot of gray area, and certainly there's a ton of gray area in divination. Ooh, neighborhood arts. I am a Gemini moon, so that might explain it. Katie's like, so there is a reason I have all these books and crystals I collected. So I am going to share with you a book that completely informed my practice very early on. And I did check, you can still get it. I believe you can still get it on Kindle, and you can still get it on in print as well. I don't know if it's only used version in print, but I've talked about this book on the channel before. This is the book When, Why, If by Robin Wood. This was required reading at some point along my practice. In fact, Deb might remember if she's still here, because I think it might have been in one of the groups we were in together. But When, Why, If is an ethics workbook by Robin Wood. Now, Robin Wood is the creator of the Robin Wood Tarot, and this book was originally printed in 1996, I believe. So it's been a little bit. Exactly. So Kristen just said something that I think is important to mention. I'm very gray in my ethics, and so could never jibe with the Wiccan Rede. Show of hands if you've ever played D&D and you're familiar with the concept of sort of like lawful neutral, lawful good. I'm not good with these, but like I know some people are better with them. That's a good way to look at ethics, right? People are going to come at things from, chaotic neutral, chaotic good. And there's some really good sort of graphics that you can find online that explain these different sort of ethical approaches within the realm of Dungeons and Dragons. Well, it might be another group. Yeah, it might be Deb. So I'm going to read you a synopsis if there is one here. This book is I think, absolutely brilliant, and I don't think there's anything else out there on the market anywhere. But I'm going to read you the the blurb, I guess, from the back, unless there's a synopsis somewhere. Is there a synopsis somewhere? Maybe. How long is this? So I'm not going to read the introduction. That's too long. Okay, I'll read the synopsis. When, Why, If is one of the most important books ever written for the benefit of the pagan and Wiccan community. So often we are given instructions on how to practice the craft in many ways, following many traditions. Finally, a responsible elder has come forward to guide us through the mists of ethical behavior and moral responsibility. This book is especially well suited for the introduction of children and teenagers entering the craft. I completely disagree. I think this is amazing for adults as well. Not just children's and teens. Children's? I said children's. Yeah. Robin Wood has presented this complex topic in simple to understand plain English. Reading this book is like having a conversation with an old and trusted friend. Thank you, Robin, for this vital contribution to the community. That was written by Kate Dalton of Craftwise. The thing about this book, and I need to reread it again because it has been quite a few years, but there's a reason I've kept this. And full disclosure, I have actually donated about 95% of the witchy books I've owned over the years. I usually read them, I work with them, and then I pass them along. This is one of a very small few that I've kept throughout all of the years because there is, again, nothing else like it that I've ever read or encountered. Essentially, what this book is it takes you through the various topics. So the chapter titles are Honesty, well, the beginning, just like today. Honesty, Self, Love, Help, Harm, Sex, Will, and Ethics. And essentially, every single chapter, it invites you to explore what you think and feel about various things relating to all of those topics. This book, essentially, if you really take the time and attention to go through it, essentially helps you build your own ethical code. It helps you understand what you feel about things. And when you're coming at a spiritual practice with an understanding of where your lines in the sand are, ethically speaking, morally speaking, when you come at the practice from that place, then you know you can be more comfortable exploring and dabbling, because as you explore and dabble, you'll know what will fit with your ethics and what won't. So something like sympathetic magic on yourself might fit your ethics, but sympathetic magic on somebody else might not. Or maybe it will when it's a beneficial magic, and it won't when it's more will-imposing magic, such as bindings or reversal spells, things like that, which we will all get into all kinds of stuff throughout this series. But it's really important to define where you're at, because once you've done that, you've laid the groundwork. I'm going to get caught up on some comments now. Oh, this is by Robin Wood. So Robin Wood is the creator of the Robin Wood Tarot. This book, I believe I originally got it from her website because my copy is signed, and I don't think I met her in person. So I think I must have ordered this directly from her website. But robinwood.com. I did do a quick Amazon search. It looks like you can get this from Kindle, and there's nothing that I've written in this book. Keep in mind this was written in the 90s, so some topics may be addressed a lot more bluntly. And I was reminded to say that because as I was randomly flipping through the pages, the word rape did pop up at me. So just, there's like, it's not a soft approach necessarily. It's a direct approach, and it's about exploring all kinds of things around ethics. So you're going to have some stuff that may or may not be triggering in here. Keep that in mind. But again, I haven't read it in a long time. I'm about due for a reread, but yeah, check it out. I believe you can get it on Amazon, Kindle, or paper. Ooh, book club. Yeah, book club. That could be fun. Some argue that being completely against hexes and binding comes from a position of privilege. People who do these things often come from marginalized groups. It's an interesting point. I will say that for a very long time, and this is another thing that will shift over time, your ethical code and what you feel like, even my ethics around divination have shifted over time. The more people that I've worked with and the more real life situations I've come up with clients or experienced with clients, these things may shift over time. I do a lot more really raw primal magic today than I did in the beginning. In the beginning, my practice was very fluffy. And speaking of fluffy, does anybody remember? I don't know if anybody still uses this term, but the term that we had when I was a little baby witch was fluffy bunny for people who practiced like me in the beginning, where it was all like rainbows and lights and unicorns, and we do healing, but we don't do anything else. I thought that, and it made me feel bad about myself, because my practice, that was what I needed at that time. What I needed was something that was love and light and rainbows and sunshine. And that was exactly what I was looking for. And now, today, some 20 years later, my practice is a lot more raw, primal, wild, A lot more ethically gray in the sense that I'm less frightened to do more powerful workings that
Does that mean you're evil now?
protect me. No, it doesn't mean I'm evil
Just
now.
saying.
Whoa. Like, I still love me some My Little Pony and some unicorns and rainbows, don't get me wrong. But I hated being called a fluffy bunny. It drove me bananas.
Oh, please, you're still a fluffy bunny.
No.
You'll always be a fluffy.
I feel like we had that conversation and created our own code at some point, but not sure if that might have been after we split. It might have been, Deb. I can't remember. But I feel like this came up. It was back then, so I know it was around that time frame. Crystal clunkers I've never heard. I don't like that either. Yeah, Katie says, I definitely practice a lot more connected and low barrier than I used to, more authentic. Yeah, and I think, Whale Song said here too, my mom has told me since I can remember, your problem is you can see so many sides or colors. It's your curse and your gift. Thanks, Mom. Peggy's like that, actually. She's, I call her a big picture thinker. It's like she can't help it. She zooms out on a situation and she sees like just the biggest, like, connections and ramifications, whereas I'm very zoomed in and very detail oriented. Hi, Chrissy. That's okay. Come on in. And so for me, I can sometimes struggle to see those bigger connections. I have to work a lot harder at it. And whereas for her, it's very natural.
I see all the things.
Yeah. Cleo says,
I'd rather fucking not.
Fluffy Bunny Witchcraft was my gateway from fundamental Christian upbringing. Yes. Geez, I was taught Smurfs were dangerous. Exactly. Like, I wasn't allowed to watch MTV growing up because it was dirty. So, yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, Deb. It often is said with affection. I think it just bugged me because I wanted to be more badass than I really was. Like, in honesty, I should have just accepted that that's where I was at because it really was where I was at. Donna says, I feel like I can be kind of a fluffy bunny until someone crosses one of my kids. Then I'm rabid. Rabid bunny, Maggie says. Yeah, exactly. Katie, we do. We're very, I mean, like, I'm not joking. When I say that we're very yin and yang, like she's very fire, I'm very water, we are in some ways polar opposites energetically. And it really, really works, except when it doesn't. And then there's like steam and explosions and things. But most of the time, it really, really works. I was actually thinking of Raving Rabbids. Raving Rabbits? What was that called? It's a video game. Anyway. Oh, Bunnicula, Chrissy says. Oh my gosh. So yeah, so so funny. I'm sure I've missed a bunch of comments. Let's see what I've missed. Lots of people come to the practice when that type of work is needed. It makes sense. Everything shifts and flows. That's natural. Yes. Butterfly Love Child says, I think more primal workings right off the bat can lead to some trauma for new practitioners. That's a very good point. I think in the beginning, what I needed was something very gentle and very loving. It's why when I first came to the craft, I was working with very soft energies. I worked with Aphrodite. Katie, I am fluffy, but my partner is so much darker. Yeah, like if you'd have like handed a little pile of like properly cleansed animal bones to me when I was like a 21-year-old witch, I would have been like, excuse me? No, I'll take some rose quartz, thanks, bye. Now I'm like, ooh, cool, I can do some magic with these. But like, that's I'm in a very different place now than I was. Rayman, that was one of the things I was thinking of. Yes, Red, thank you. Cleo, I'm so that explosive fluffy bunny. People always see me as really sweet until I unleash the killer rabbit. Yeah, nothing is black or white.
Oh my God, Reader Rabbit? I remember Reader Rabbit.
I don't remember Reader Rabbit.
It's a kid's game.
Oh.
It's a reading game. It was a fun game. Kids loved it back then.
Oh,
back
nice.
then, now they just think
way back in the day.
Yeah, shut up.
Marion says, I've heard the term Pollyanna witch. Yeah, me too. So I am really excited to be diving into this series. I'm super curious. We have like kind of where we're at. We kind of have identified what I mean when I talk about eclectic witchcraft. We've sort of talked about the fact that the foundation of this is going to be determining your core values, determining your why, and determining your ethics. I think those are the three sort of key things you need to decide going in is why, what are you really looking for? What do you want your spiritual path to do for you? What are your core values? And what your ethics are. I think those are really, really important foundational pieces and something that's worth, if you want to follow this sort of journey of Eclectic Witchcraft 101 along in a more structured way, then maybe do some journaling of that, about those things over the coming days and just see what bubbles up for you and see if you can create for yourself a mental picture of what you're really looking for out of your practice and out of your path. Complexities of people. Exactly. So I think I would love to hear maybe what some of the topics are. I've got my notebook handy. What some of the topics are you want to make sure that we include in this series. I've got some ideas in my head, but I really want to know what's going to be important to you guys. And if you're watching this after the fact, like if you didn't catch it live, leave your requests and stuff down in the comments below, because I really would love to know what's really important to people. Again, I kind of want to go in baby steps. So I really want to start with foundational stuff. And then we're going to look at like basic things, like we're going to look at like sort of intention and feeling and sensing and working with energy and these sorts of things before we get into sort of detailed like side topics. But I'm really curious what we want to, I want to make a list. Lennon says, I think know thyself is so important to your practice. List. Yeah, it's why journaling is such an important part of what I do. And Peggy and I both know when I'm off balance because I'm not writing. When I'm not writing, I am definitely off balance. Grounding and protection. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to start writing some of these down. Yep, grounding and protection. Another call for protection. What happens when you were raised with no boundaries? Seriously. Well, then learning what boundaries even look and feel like is going to be a challenge, right? That's going to be a big part of the work. Something's been bothering me since I left Christianity. That's my parents. I've been an Asatru follower since I was 17. How do I tell my parents to stop telling me I'm saved without the hurt? Oh, man. So that's tricky. I don't know anything about Asatru, to be clear. I think talking to your parents about spirituality can be tricky. Talking to anybody who is not on the exact same spiritual path as you can be tricky. It's even tricky for me talking about it here on the channel. Oh, new moon rituals. I'll write that one down. It can be a little scary when you talk about your beliefs and your practices, because not everybody's going to get it. In fact, it's almost guaranteed that there's going to be people who don't get it.
Well, I mean, let's face it. There's more than one kind of closet.
Oh, absolutely. That we call it the broom closet in the witchy world.
Yeah, the broom closet, the queer closet. I mean,
yeah.
Honestly, it's the same criteria. Every closet has the same criteria for coming out. So. Oh,
in fact, Chrissy just, or was it Chrissy? No, who just said this? Oh, Bethany just said simple practices for those of us that are still in the broom closet. I will tell you, my practice, 85% of it is broom closet friendly, I would say. And then the 15% that isn't is gloriously, deliciously witchy. But there's about 85% of it, I would say, is very sort of, I don't want to say generic because that's totally the wrong word.
It can be adapted in very generic ways that are very, because I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like
I see how you practice.
Yeah, exactly. Protection of the home. Home protection. So hexes, shielding, knot, candle, journey work, and so on. Yeah, all types of magic. There's going to be so many. And we're probably going to have individual chats on different types of magic as well. Len, the witch closet can be dark and smells the feet. Yeah, it can be.
It kind of always starts off feeling that way anyway.
Yeah, that's true. For me, it was important. Oh, elements and moon rituals. I didn't get elements. Yeah, elements we're going to be covering probably pretty early on. And spell crafting and such. Candle magic. I'm excited too to have these kind of conversations in a group setting, because I think what's really exciting is that I come at things from a very sort of specific outlook, in the sense that a lot of what I do is very non-traditional, or is very sort of what feels right to me in that moment kind of stuff. There's some structure, but it's structure light for sure. But it'll be fun to have other people in the room, especially like when we get into topics about specific types of magic, whether that's sigil work or candle magic or whatnot, where they get to share their thoughts and their experiences and sort of add to the conversation. What did I miss here? Simple magic in your daily life. Simple daily magic. Yep, that's a good one. Hi, Jujubee. Things not to do when starting out. Oh my gosh. Things not to do.
Lisa's going to write stuff down.
I am. This is good though. Numerology, Obsidian Scorpius says. Yeah. Numerology is great too because you can weave it in with your divination practice and your tarot practice. Oh, cosmology. I love all these ideas. You guys are amazing. When to do them and when not to do them, when they're best depending on moon phase. Spoiler alert, I do them when they're needed. And then when I have time and luxury to plan for specific times, then I do that. But it's still a very good topic and we should still cover it. Oh yeah, love magic is a total ethical minefield for sure. And this is what I mean. This is why I think our personal homework needs to be really thinking about our own boundaries ethically, our own guidelines ethically, what we're okay with, what we're not okay with. And also, I think it also kind of expands further to go, what do you think is effective? Whether or not I believe in my ability to truly impede somebody else's will or like restrict them, or like whether I believe in like, casting a love spell on somebody else or whatever, even if I ethically think that's wrong, do I even believe that could work? And that's a question that you can ask yourself too when you get into like actually planning magical workings and things like that. Yes, Katie, my practice is very well, I should say this. My practice is uncomplicated in the sense that I very rarely go get specific things for specific workings. I always work with what I have. Now, as I have more, I tend to get complicated because I have things to pull from. But yeah, definitely uncomplicated. Self-love magic, Cleo, after my own heart. I've got so much on that topic because I do a lot of that.
You do a lot of self-love?
Self-love magic. Thanks for trying to make it dirty, though, babe.
Hey,
appreciate
welcome.
it.
You're absolutely
She's
welcome.
The best.
I am. I'm fucking amazing.
Potions, remedies, food for Sabbats. Yes. Food for Sabbats. The Sabbats in general, even. We're going to be covering those too. Helping baby witches, directing them, but making sure they still make their own decision on things and to show what is wrong and right. Some of my friends are babes and want to auto hex people. Oh boy. So tricky. You're like, no. Let's reel it in. I also want to make it incredibly clear to anybody who's thinking about joining in these discussions. These are open to all sorts of magical practices. If you are in a closed tradition, if you have a very specific set of practices that are maybe not considered universally appealing, it still can be a part of the discussion. I think that's really, really important. Professor Lisa, can we have a syllabus? You guys, if I make a syllabus,
oh my God, no.
Don't set me loose on a syllabus. Just trust me.
Oh my God, no.
Just trust me, because if you let me plan, I will plan. And if I plan, it will get too rigid and I think we'll miss out on some opportunities. So no syllabus. We're going to take it chat by chat. And just, I think that will also help us get a feel for what we're kind of needing next, right? Especially once we get past some of the introductory topics like energy and elements and Sabbats and stuff. I want to get into like different ideas. Oh, what's this? Peggy is
Nothing.
What is going on? Bad stuff is happening in chat.
I wasn't even me this time. It was Mark.
I definitely want to do a chat on ancestor magic, and we might plan some of these chats around the season as well. So we're going into the summer season, so we may focus on some of the stuff like as we start to get into topics. Oh my God, you guys with the syllabus! Don't let me loose on a syllabus. It's a terrible plan. You don't understand. Donna, exactly. Donna and I had some frank conversations about some fierce magic for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think it's good to know, like when you're in a place of need, your practice will look different, right? When you're just doing your day-to-day stuff, it's like with your tarot. If you think about it, if you have a divination or a tarot practice, it's the same thing. Your daily draws are much different than this shit's going down and I need a spread to help me sort my crap out, right? Like it's a very different energy that you're putting into it. So there's like sort of the small nurturing day-to-day stuff. Ooh, yes, difference between ritual and spells. Yes, absolutely. And we're going to talk too, we're definitely going to cover at some point in the series, we're going to talk about how to craft your own rituals, how to do them really ceremonially, if that's what you're into, but also how to do them very like fly by the seat of your pants and have them still contain the essential elements to be productive and safe. Beltane's my favorite Sabbat. I love Beltane. Okay, maybe not my favorite. It's one of my favorites. For all the fun reasons. Energy healing. Yeah, energy healing. I'm not trained in Reiki, but I do energy healing. I think that's a worthwhile thing. And there's some very simple techniques you can practice when it comes to energy healing that are really accessible to everybody, and you can work within your personal ethics as well. Yeah, I was thinking ancestral work around Samhain would be perfect. Sigil magic is definitely already on the list. Tarot spells is good to add. And we may, depending on what everybody's into, there's a few topics that we may do some tarot magic / spells, where we may also do some like book kind of fun things where we maybe all go through a particular book, or we do some book recommends. There'll probably be some book recommendations in our next chat. When we're talking, well, one of our next chats, when we're talking about sort of 101 style foundational resources that are good. Okay, so Whalestone says, just repeating here, chat is speeding very quickly. Yes, thank you for tagging me. Ideas to phrase magical workings so they're focused, not a be careful what you wish for kind of vibe. Yeah, so how do I write that down? Let's just see. Be careful what you wish for wording. Yeah, the thing about spell work, you need to be clear. If you are muddy in your intention, you're going to get a muddy result, and that's sometimes not so awesome. Bind runes, hex, sigils. I'm really actually excited to have a lot of different perspectives in these conversations because, again, my craft is still a very nurturing, soft, squishy kind of craft for the most part, where it's not being really like raw and primal, because I'm sort of hello, I have like Care Bears in my chats and soft, squishy things. It's just, I'm very much a cuddly, soft, squishy kind of person, right? What is going on? Who's
nothing? You just mind your business. Just mind your business.
There's all kinds of bad. Who's encouraging my wife to do bad things? Something's bad is happening. I need to make. Yeah, you need to make up with him in time for Beltane. What are you thinking? Or find a new guy. Just saying. It's so bad. I might have missed if I've missed your idea and you haven't heard me repeat it and you want to make sure that I get it, then tag me or type it in all caps so I can snag it. I know, we're the worst. All the dirty. Yeah, Beltane's coming up here pretty quick too. Oh, Kristen. George Hares is a traditional witch. He does a good video on that. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I am not traditional or hereditary in any way, shape, or form, so my practice reflects that for sure. Yeah. Oh, Christy says honing in on herbs, how, when to use them, combinations and uses. Yeah, we're gonna have to do probably. I think in the beginning we'll do sort of broad, what do you call it, broad strokes subjects.
What are you doing? Your spells don't work and travel altars.
Ooh, thank you for putting them in all caps too. Travel altars are a big thing I love.
Book of Shadows versus Book of Mirrors.
Oh my gosh, I have so much to say about Book of Shadows. And we should do that soon. We should actually do a Book of Shadows talk soon because you guys are probably going to be journaling and note-taking and things like that. Oh my god, oils. You guys are amazing. BOS and also Book of Mirrors. And also Grimoire / Grimoire. Not always the same thing. You're right, Marion. It's not so good. Yeah, good point. Fair. Hadn't thought of that. Excuse me. How to identify good resources. Oh yeah, we need to have a whole chat just on resources because that'll be a really good one in a live chat. We can share resources with each other that we have found to really hold up, because there's a lot of really good stuff that has held up well for me over the years, and there's stuff that I think is really, really helpful, and then there's some stuff that's like somebody's just trying to make a buck. You know what I mean? So I think there's so much we can do with this. Yes, Book of Shadows. And what do you do when it's not a book? Because I got a Book of Shadows. It's not a book, and it's very, very good. So yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, Chrissy, I totally get that, having a practice one before you make like a formal one. I can't. Hey, Peggy, what are you doing?
Nothing.
She's just being incorrigible in the chat. 2 notebooks right now. Use a binder as the official. Yes. Heidi, I use my planner as my Book of Shadows because I'm too scared to try to put that effort into a nice book. That is me. I have been crippled over the years every time I've tried to make a nice book of shadows, I pitched that idea out the window a long time ago. Art magic and egg magic. Oh, it's too bad we're past Ostara, but yeah, egg magic and art magic in general is such an easy, simple way to do spell work, by the way. Egg magic. Yeah, binders are great for a starter book of shadows if you just want something to just start collecting stuff in. My book of shadows is a expanding file folder, one of those things that like just open up and it's got pockets. Spoiler alert. Planners are great. Bullet journals are great. Yep, I had a binder with plastic sleeves for years. A big, thick one, full. I think we can have the discussions right in the Supportive Tarot Facebook group. Maybe we'll start some threads specifically for, we can even start like a document in the group that we can all contribute to. That might be something that we can do where people can throw in their resources. I'd prefer to keep everything in Supportive Tarot just to keep it simple and easy to find. Yeah, witchcraft on a budget for sure. Yeah, budget. What is art magic? So one example of art magic, just as an example, spoiler alert again, is getting out a canvas and writing a petition or an intention on your canvas and then painting over it and then hanging that somewhere in your home. It's a simple way to do art magic. Making magical tools. Oh, yes. Making magical tools. We're going to have an episode early on, I think, on tools in general. And talking about what you need, what you don't need. Any chance some Insta posts? Oh man, I can try. I'm so bad on Instagram. Fair enough, I know. And we're gonna keep everything on YouTube. Okay, to be clear, like anything people want to share in Facebook, that's awesome because there's a way for people to connect with one another. We can create. I wonder if somebody's already using Eclectic Witchcraft 101 as a hashtag. Let me go search Instagram while we're here. Let's just see. Because if nobody is, then we can use that as a hashtag to share stuff with each other on Instagram, which I think would be really great. So let's just see. Hashtag Eclectic Witchcraft 101. Nope. It's not a hashtag yet on Instagram. So use this hashtag, Eclectic Witchcraft 101. And if you're posting about this on social media, on Instagram, use that hashtag. I'll add the hashtag to the YouTube, to this chat so that people know they can tag their videos or tag their posts with this tag if they're doing VRs on topics we've done or if they're making Instagram posts or whatnot. Oh my gosh, I can't keep up with chat. You guys are amazing. I'm not even going to try. Oh, crystal grids. Yes. I use crystal grids all the time.
In trouble, so that's not helping.
Fair enough. I'm ignoring you.
Well, you're smart.
I am smart. That's right. And I know you. So
I love you too.
Crystal grids are good because I was so intimidated by them for so long, and then I just stopped worrying about it and started being able to get really potent ones. Ooh, rituals for small spaces. I have always designed my rituals for small spaces because I've often only had small spaces. My first altar was essentially a little trunk. I think I still have. Do I still have that box? That trunk?
Yes, you do. It's around somewhere.
And I would store all my witchy tools in it, and then when I was setting up my altar, I would open the trunk, take the items out, put a cloth over the top, and that was my altar. I just want a damn drum circle. Oh my god, I haven't been to a drum circle in so long. And a Beltane drum circle is the best drum circle. The best. Oh my god, I need drums. I wish people did the kind of drum circle where like it wasn't a ritual or a whole event. It was just like go, drum, be in the space, leave. Because I don't want the group drama. That's my problem. Poppets. Yes, Poppets is already on the list. But dirt, collecting hagstones, feathers, witchy decor ideas, elemental magic, familiars, keys. Oh my goodness, Mark. So much good stuff. Poppets for sure. Dirt collecting I've never heard of, so you may need to expand on that for me. Hagstones I only recently discovered. Feathers, witchy decor. I also have...
Oh yeah, drum circles are fun.
Drum circles are amazing.
I've only ever been in a couple.
I know. Yeah, these are scary times. I'm sorry, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Caroline. I don't know if it's Carolyn. Will there be a certain time? I'm sub just asking. So this time is kind of okay, I think. Honey, what do you think about Wednesdays?
It's not like we're doing anything
It's
else
true.
these days.
We're not going anywhere.
We need to take advantage of that.
I might stick with Wednesdays or weekdays at around this time for now. If it looks like we had a pretty good sized group able to make it, so I think I will stick with about 5:30 Pacific time. So whatever time that is where you are, probably something similar for a while, because I'm already doing quite a bit on the weekends because we have Self-Worth Saturday. On Saturday, I do my tarot by the book. On Sunday, I do my weekly deck review. So I think something midweek would probably be the most doable. Oh, graveyard dirt. Gotcha. So I may have to, I'm going to pause my list now just so I don't get overwhelmed. But I think we have a lot of good ideas. And some of these will be grouped together, but I think we're probably going to be talking about energy and intention, or at least intention.
Wednesdays, please.
Yay. Okay. Well, Wednesdays, we're going to stick with Wednesdays for now. I will plan our next topic, but so this week, core points.
You have a day job, so about the earliest you can do
it's 5:30. That's what I did today.
You might be able to do 5. But
I could possibly do 5.
But if you're even a little bit delayed at work, you won't be.
That's why I picked 5:30 because there's 5:30 is probably the easiest for me because there's time for me to get 3:30 a.m. for you. No, no, and we may do some sporadically at your Witchy Wednesday, Lennon. Ooh, I like it. Vitsis does. I'm down. Yeah. So for now, we're going to do Wednesday evenings, but keep in mind, last chat we did like this, which was the spirit guides chat. Oh, Terry, you know what? I totally get it. And don't worry if it takes you like a really long time to type and respond. Even if the conversation's moved on, your thoughts are still super like important and valid.
Why do you think I sit back here and mouth off? Because I can't type that fast.
Yeah, it's tricky, right?
Yeah. I get lucky.
And hopefully for some of these, we can bring on some guests to join the conversation too. Like I'd love to have other people come on and we can kind of go back and forth and talk about the different topics. So I'm not set on the format of this.
Okay, Mark says don't go too early because I go to Witchy Wednesdays too, and another before that.
Okay, cool. So we'll stick with 5:30 for now.
Wednesday may be a bad day.
No, we've gotten good. I think we've gotten good feedback about Wednesday. I'm not going to stress about it because this is all rewatchable. And
that's true too.
And something I was going to say too is that if you noticed on the previous discussion, which was spirit guides, there was a lot of really great chat that happened in the comments after. So don't feel like if you're having a hard time keeping up, it does move quickly. The thing about live chats, I'll just remind everybody about, is that the conversation moves quickly. But for me, even if somebody brings in a comment later, like I can make the connection, right? So it's still good feedback or good way to participate, right? But don't stress. It's easy to do that, I know. Okay, yeah, Mark says, I love the time, Peggy. See? There you go.
Okay, I will stop
then. And yoga, oh my God, I've been wanting to do like a yoga spell work series for like forever. So we'll definitely talk about yoga and spell work. I need to get back on my own mat. It's been ages.
Well, and you're a teacher. You could be helping people relax.
I could be. Hi, Bruno, did you want my miso soup? Is that why? Come here. Come here. I've got a little puppy who's like here to say hello. Hi.
What did I say? Sometimes I'll rewatch a video just to catch up on comments I missed too.
Yeah, there was a lot of really great comments after the spirit guide went, hi, you just really want my soup. This is not about me, is it?
You can smell the bonito in
it. His whole head, hold on, see if I can show you guys this. His whole head is in the mug. His whole head.
He likes miso.
Apparently this is just miso soup dregs. Is it good?
And he loves fish.
He really likes fish. This is insane. Okay, that's a great way to end the chat. Oh, good. It's good time for you. Okay, good. How was that? Was that good? Yeah, we had miso paste and oh, there's some dregs in the bottom. So he's like, hi, I found some dregs. Yeah, we had miso paste. So I made myself a mug of miso to sip on as a snack / beverage during this chat. That was, buddy, are you done? Is it good? Yeah, best day ever? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I was distracted by my doggo. He is the cutest. Anyway, All right, so I will see you guys here next Wednesday. Topic to be announced, but probably it's going to be about intention setting and feeling and experiencing energy. So that's probably where we're going to go next. But I might change my mind. We'll see.
You feel better, Bruno?
Puppy magic. Yeah, this is the miso that has the bonito, whatever, the fish extract already in it. So you just a couple tablespoons, some boiling water, and you have like instant miso, just little bits. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining this one. I know this one was a little all over the place, but just to recap, know your why, think about and start considering your ethics. Consider this book. It is so, so good. If you can get yourself a copy. I think the Kindle version is like $5. If you have the extra disposable income right now, definitely check it out. But think about your ethics, think about your why, and think about your core values and what you want out of your practice. And then we're going to start like actually doing some stuff next week, which will be really exciting. So thank you so much for hanging out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.